2898, that is a nice little bug hole so far. Those last three had an extreme spread of 3 feet a second. That's probably a 1/4 inch group. $29.21, but that didn't make it any bigger. I think it went in there with the bottom two. Well, isn't that something? Welcome back, everybody. This is Tim with Little Crow Gunworks. It's the 12th day of April, and this is test number 3. We're back out at 100 yards at our local range in Monticello, and going to be shooting some groups today. So we have 30 rounds left. I think we'll just do 6 groups of 5 to keep it simple. We were out at shooting at 640 yards yesterday, trying to gather some data there. We shot groups of 5, 4 groups of 5, and shot some steel and gathered some velocity. And it was our first initial test to see if with this factory ammo there was some correlation between velocity consistency and vertical group size, but more particularly the vertical component of the group size. And we'll link, that was test number 2. We'll link the video in the description, or up in the corner right up here. If you haven't watched that, check that out. We had some really interesting results. Wasn't exactly what I predicted, but anyway, I found it to be fascinating, so I think that's worth checking out. So today we're just shooting groups at 100 yards. We have the Celestron Regal M2 along to get some good imaging of the target downrange. So the rifle was tracking high yesterday, but I'm not going to adjust anything. We'll just see how she pans out at 100 yards. I think our grand aggregate the first time we were here last month, between the 4 groups of 5 shots, it averaged just under an inch. I think it was 0.8925 or something like that for the 4 groups, and the velocity average for the day for the 26 shots we tracked, was 2870. That was at 40 degrees. It's 75 degrees now, so I know it's going to be, our velocity is going to be higher, but we'll see how much higher. So I think we're loaded up. Get set here. Let's send the first one downrange. These Redfield precision targets I really like because they have so many fine aim points on them. I'm going to aim at very fine points of the diamonds, just so I have a really small aim point, and I'm favoring towards the middle of the target. So that way, if it is climbing a little bit, they'll still be on the paper. We won't lose any. That first group appears to be probably 5/8 MOA, something like that. 5/8 of an inch on the vertical. Horizontal is probably 3/4. So in English it'd be a 3/4 inch group. Not too bad for a start. Alright, we'll go to the second point of aim. And you'll see that, I mean, with factory ammo, you'll see flyers are more common than if you've taken the time to build hand loads and build a reliable load. You know, they're just throwing what they found to be a decent load together, and that doesn't mean it's not going to have flyers and it's mass produced. And so you're seeing on the video that it's pretty well been piling them up in the center of my point of aim, and then that one jumped out about a full inch to the left. .2863, that's really slow. That's slower than anything we shot yesterday too at 640 when it was cooler. That one jumped out almost an inch to the right. That one hammered through the same hole as my original impact. 2910. Barrel's still cool to the touch. We'll keep going here. If anything, we'll maybe take a little break after this next group and talk about how things are going so far, this project. $28.90. $28.97. Wow, $28.98. That is a nice little bug hole so far. Those last three had an extreme spread of 3 feet a second. That's probably a 1/4 inch group. 29-21, but that didn't make it any bigger. I think it went in there with the bottom two. Well, isn't that something? I think I'm gonna let this thing cool off and go down and measure that group. That 5-shot group had an extreme spread of 34 feet a second. Did it matter? Nope. I'll go show you how little it mattered. Well, that was 3/8 of an inch group. I measured it both ways, and the first way I measured it was 3/8, and then I measured it the other way in case that was longer, and that was 5/16, which is even less. So, wow. Factory ammo. Those would have been rounds 80 through 85 on the barrel. And we've been using a super secret process of barrel break-in called shooting it and not even running a patch down it. It's very intricate. You just go to the range and you shoot, and you don't get in a hurry, and you don't clean it, you don't scrub away, you don't do any other BS that doesn't do anything. You just shoot the gun, and voila, it starts shooting better the more you shoot it. Typically, regardless of cartridge, I shouldn't say that, most cartridges, the barrel doesn't really even stabilize and calm down until you get to about 200 rounds on the barrel. Some cartridges less, like if they're really overbore, like a 257 Weatherby or a 22 Creedmoor, 220 Swift, 22 250, stuff like that. The barrel will calm down a little sooner, but typically it's around 200 rounds before you really know what you got. The barrel's constantly changing. Even though I'm not cleaning it and I'm not going in there and disturbing anything, the fire cracking is starting to happen on, right on the lead where it goes from reamer cut to barrel. We're kind of burnishing that. It's getting blasted, with powder and 50-some thousand, 60,000 psi at 4,000 degrees. It's slowly getting blasted in, so it is changing, and it'll do that, like I said, for the first couple hundred rounds, and then it'll kind of level out, and you'll know what you got, and then the barrel will, from there, it will slowly start to die. And when it dies is contingent upon a lot of things. One of them is how you treat it. If you get it really hot, your barrel life's going to be shorter. If you're running really high pressure loads, your barrel life's going to be shorter. It's not necessarily velocity that kills a barrel. I mean, that doesn't help, but I think it's more so, I don't have anything to prove this, but I think it's just in my experience, it's more so how much pressure you're running. So if you're running really hot loads, like almost 70,000 psi, where you're only getting 2, 3, 4 firings on your brass, and then it won't hold a primer anymore, that barrel life is going to be half of something that you always ran at 58,000 psi. That 12,000 psi difference between 58 and 70, you're like, well, that's not that much. It's a lot. That's a big difference. That can mean double the barrel life, and regardless of velocity, just how hard you're leaning on it. Really dictates the barrel life. So anyway, damn, 3/8 of an inch. That's pretty good. A lot of guys don't get that with their hand loads for a 5-shot group. Not 3-shot, 5-shot. For you 3-shotters out there. 3-shot groups don't mean much. I can't tell you how many 3-shot groups I've shot where they're less than 1/10 of an inch, less than 0.100. But they don't do that all the time. So put more rounds on it. 5-shot groups or more if you really want to know what you got. I mean, you're just doing little incremental testing and you want to get an idea of if something's good. 3 is fine. 2 is fine. But if you really want to know what you got, shoot 5 or more. So, all right, we're loaded back up here. That one, it's probably 3/4, maybe 7/8 on the diagonal there. Upper left to lower right. The boss is calling me. I have to call you back, boss. Call you when I'm done shooting here. So you guys can see from what's going on here, whether guys are talking online about shooting factory ammo or hand loads or whatever, and you read that famous, oh, it'll shoot 1/2-inch groups all day long if I do my part. Well, I'm doing my part. Every time I break the trigger, it's right where it's supposed to be. And you can see the groups. There's no such thing as 1/2-inch all day long if I do my part. I mean, the guys that are national level competitors, yeah, their guns will do that. But if it's just some schmuck on the internet, yeah, okay, it'll do a 3/8-inch group. Will it do that all the time, every time? No, that's not how distributions work. That's what these are. These shots are a distribution, a random distribution of where they land on the paper. And this type of distribution is a bell curve, which means the groups can be anywhere on that bell curve. They might be 0.1 or 0.2. They might be 3/4. That maybe that's the average accuracy of this rifle or precision. They might be down here on the bell curve where they're 1 inch, and they're gonna land somewhere on that curve. You don't get to pick like, okay, I always want them there. That's not how it works. That's not reality. You can't beat physics. They're going to be somewhere on that bell curve. And yeah, most of them will be maybe between 3/8 and 3/4, or, you know, whatever, depending on how precise your gun is. But there's no such thing as it does this all the time. That's not reality. All right. $28.77. That one dipped way down. All these seem to be forming really well. It's really stable. Not getting any weird pressure signs on the primer, and everything looks the same. Just the neck is dirty, not the shoulder. Just from the neck up is dirty, which is good. That means it's forming the way it should, and you're getting a good seal. We were shooting at 640 yards yesterday, and I ended up putting 20 rounds on the paper targets. And for those of you that are familiar with F-class and FTR style competitions, they shoot 20 rounds for score. And just for fun, I figured out what my score would have been. We were shooting 640, but I figured if it was 600 yards, I figured out what my score would have been in F open, which is prone. I wasn't. I was on a wobbly table, so it's not to my advantage. 22 Nosler factory ammo, and those 20 rounds, my score would have been, I think it was 186 with 3 X's. I only had 2 8s, and one was vertical. I'm assuming it was a flyer because the factory ammo, and the other one I blew an 8 upwind, blew a wind call and pushed an 8 upwind. Everything else was 9s and 10s, and if I was centered up a little better, I think I was about a quarter MOA too high. If I was centered up a little better, I would have maybe had a few more points and a few more X's, but I thought that was comical. That if it was 600 yard F class, it would have been a 186 3X for 20 rounds. I wouldn't have expected that going into the day, considering how windy it was and how poor the conditions were, and the fact that it's it's not an F open gun, it's a 22 Nosler with factory ammo. So anyway, I just texted him that before I came out here. That's probably what he's calling about, the boss. He probably has something to say about that. He used to shoot a little F class locally, recreationally, so I'm guessing he has something funny to say. Anyway, we got one group left here, and then we'll see where the dust settles for the aggregate and everything. $29.14. $9.01. Whoa, there's our flyer for the day. 29.21. That was not me. I pulled that shot. Yeah, wasn't me. $9.18. Last one. It's kind of ugly. $28.99. All right. Well, we're through our first 100 of the factory ammo. Now I can size these and get them prepped and get to the hand loads. If you didn't see all of the last video 2, we wanted to get through the first 100. Now I'm going to process them and size them, process them, all that, get them ready, and get them loaded up with, I'm going to do a pressure ladder with 5 different powders that are kind of spread out across the burn rate chart. The boss and I were talking about what we're going to do, and we're kind of picking from our favorites and then one wild card. So the fastest powder we're going to do is IMR 4895. I shouldn't tell you guys this, but that is an awesome powder. It's a really old military powder that comes in a hideous salmon colored bottle, and a lot of guys don't know anything about it, but it shoots. It's not as velocity stable as Varget or something like that, but it shoots really good in pretty much everything I've tested it in. Get my hearing protection out. So that's the fastest one, IMR 4895. Then the next slowest we're going to test is Varget. And the next slowest is CFE 223. And the next slowest is Vitavori N540. That's my favorite for cartridges this size. And then the wild card the boss wanted to try, because he's got a whole bunch of it, and he's loaded it in his 223 before with surprisingly good results. And typically it would be way too slow for a cartridge this size. We're going to try Hodgson Superformance. And that's when the burn rate's that slow. It's so slow for a case this size. A lot of times that doesn't burn that great. It'll be really dirty. And you really can't run into pressure problems, because you need so much of it before you get up to an unsafe pressure level. It's kind of fill it up to the neck and smash a bullet on it, and you're still nowhere near peak pressure, even though it's compressed and you physically can't get any more in there. Though we're going to see what it does. This case has a little more capacity than a 223, and the boss plays with a lot of Ackley 223 Ackleys. That's his baby. But this holds another 2 grains more than that. So we'll see if that makes any difference with Superformance. And what we're trying to do is, when we're done with this and we're able to offer this rifle as a product, it's not going to look like this, but when guys say, well, what is it like to shoot, we want to be able to say, all right, well, we like the 75 grain Hornady ELDM and the 80 grain ELDM. And with those 2 bullets, this is our pet load. And they go, well, I can't get Varget or I can't get N540. We want to be able to say, all right, well, here's 5 different powders that we found a really good load for. Hopefully you can find one of those 5, and if not, then you're kind of on your own. But we want to be able to present people with a little more information, so that way they can hit the ground running and find something that shoots good right off the bat. And then if they want to tinker in their own time, they can, but we want to get them headed the right direction. So well, that's all I had on the menu for today. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the series. I am responding to every comment, so I do see what you guys are writing and take it into consideration. And like I said in the video too, if there's anything you guys want to see that I'm not doing, feel free to ask. If I'm able to accommodate, I certainly will. But and there are other powders that we considered, but I think that's the list that we're going to go with for now, because at 5 powders I can take this 100 pieces of brass and do a 20 charge ladder with 5 different powders, and that'll burn up this entire box of 100 rounds. So then the barrel will have 200 rounds on it and be at that kind of happy point before I start doing any accuracy testing with any one of the individual powders. All I will have done is just hopefully found out where the pressure ceiling is and found an area in each ladder where the point of impact is relatively the same. That's usually a good way to find out where it's going to kind of want to be. That doesn't mean you have to select out of there, but you're better off selecting out of there, because otherwise you're kind of fighting it. Like if it really likes, say at Varget, it really likes between 23.5 and 23.8, where they all kind of 23.5, 6, 7, and 8 all kind of hit in the same place. You should probably pick something in there. It may not be as fast as you want it to be or whatever, but generally just doing a powder ladder will kind of tell you where it wants to be, and then you can select something out of that window where it wants to be and do your seating depth test and incrementally change your seating depth and see if you can get the groups bigger or smaller or whatever. And we'll go into more of that as we do it, but That's all I had for today. So thanks for watching. We really appreciate you guys following along on this series. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Like this video, share it with any of your friends you think might find it interesting. And that's it for today. We'll see you on the next one. And like I said, on that one we'll be doing pressure ladders with 5 different powders. So we'll see you then. Thanks.